So, welcome to another podcast episode from the Max Jancar show. In this one, I want to go over 10 simple lessons, consider them life lessons that I've learned while I was going through my own heartbreak and while I was in a period of intense dating. I was basically what you would label as a fuckboy. Now, I know, a lot of stigma to that word. I'm embarrassed by it as well, a little bit at least. Although it was worth it. But for those uninitiated, according to the Urban Dictionary, this refers to a guy that's weak, that's needy, that's contemptible. Contemptible. I think that's how you pronounce it. Contemptible. Who tries to get in it, or tries to do everything and anything to get the women that he likes to like him back. Even if those things are oftentimes ethically questionable. This is a person who also measures his self-worth and self-esteem by the number of women he sleeps with, and he makes them all feel very special even though he only cares about himself at the end and just tries to get into their pants. This is essentially what a fuckboy means, and sadly, I was this person when I was going through my very first major breakup. Like, it was a breakup that essentially, it was an end of a very long-term relationship of mine. Also, the first relationship that I ever had that was of such type. Now, the women that I dated, they were, at that moment in time, like objects to me, right? So you can really, like, get a sense of what I was, the headspace I was in that time. I proudly manipulated them to get them to fall for me. I usually display them only for status so I can get praise from my guy friends. And the only reason I fucked with most of them is so I can feel, or even hooked up just in any way with most of them, is so I could feel better about myself. And this is the worst part, guys and gals, I deliberately sought out women who had heaps of emotional issues like me because, well, they were the most relatable, and also because they were the easiest to manipulate and into having sex with me, into basically dating me. That's the kind of a person that I was, and the only reason I've been doing all of that meaningless, very unhealthy dating, is so I could forget about the pain, so I could suppress my heartbreak and feel in any way, shape, or form, even if it was in the warm embrace of a stranger, so I could feel like I matter again. It was a really dark time, yet interesting and fun time in my life. Now, looking back at it now, with that I'm way older, because this was probably 6-7 years ago, way more mature, I can probably discern 10 lessons from that period that I think are applicable to all of you going for heartbreak, whether guy or gal, because chances are you are in a similar mindset, or you will be, not in terms of trying to fuck a bunch of people, but in the mindset of you're hurting and you're just looking for ways to suppress that pain. Maybe your way of suppression isn't dating, maybe it's drinking, maybe it's partying, maybe it's playing video games all day, right? Who knows? The point is, these are the 10 lessons that I learned from all of that stuff, and I think they will help you out at least a little bit. The first lesson is a lesson on pain, and it goes like this. You can't escape pain, you can't drink, fuck, date it, or party it away, you can't cry and complain and mope it away, you can't scream it out, you can't bite or punch and kick it away, you can't even therapy it away. You just have to get good at feeling bad. You have to get good at feeling heartbroken. Because look, personal growth always equates to enduring a certain amount of pain. Thus, getting good at feeling it is pretty important. It makes you more of a resilient person. So don't try to avoid it, lean into it and deal with it. And by dealing with it, I mean accept it and try to behave despite the pain in healthy ways. So instead, if you're, for example, angry because of your pain, right? Instead of going and punching your dog in the face, please go and seek out therapy, or at least punch a punching bag or something. That's what I mean when I say you gotta get good at managing your pain. The second lesson is on vulnerability. And the theory goes that the more you try to hide your flaws, the more flawed you will feel. And that's what I was doing when I was dating for a long time. I was pretending to be this alpha, high-value male. I was, by the way, as you can probably guess, very much inundated in the whole red pill pickup manosphere space that's awfully toxic and promotes the whole concept of faking who you are and acting high value, whatever the fuck that means. Well, what I learned is that the more I tried to fake who I am and hide who I actually am, with flaws and quirks, weird quirks and all that shit, the worse I felt about myself. And I think the worse you will feel about yourself if you do the same thing. And the only way to break out of that slump is to be vulnerable, to be who you are, to address your imperfections, to not be a pussy when it comes to expressing your opinions, your thoughts, your honest opinions and thoughts, and to just admit that you not only have mistakes, but that you will make mistakes as a person along the lines when you're trying to reattract an ex and when you're trying to just find someone else in general. And that's fine, because humans at their core, we're attracted to each other's rough edges. It's not about finding the perfect person, It's about finding two imperfect people coming together, trying to be a little bit better together. Still imperfect, but a bit better. By the way, if you're enjoying this episode, I really urge you, go and download my reattraction cheat sheet. If you're the type of a person who wants to get back with their ex, this cheat sheet will help a lot. It will provide a bunch of great tips and advice on how to go about it the right way, the way that I think is the healthiest and most effective. Link in the description down below. But anyway, to get to lesson number 3, a lesson on fallacies. This one goes like this. Most dates won't make you happy, at peace, or even less heartbroken. This was a really difficult lesson to admit to myself, because I was dating just so much, right? And due to this whole ego boost that I got whenever I dated a really hot girl or something, I essentially had this mindset of the more women that I hook up with, the happier I'll be. Turns out that's a fallacy, that's a delusion, because the more of these experiences I had, the worse I felt. Actually, at some point, I was like, what's the point? Why am I doing this? It's not fun anymore. It got kind of boring. I was hanging out with really bad people at the time as well. And I was like, oh, so it won't make me happy the more I do this. And from that point on, I really dialed back on dating. I started also being way more picky and picking people that I genuinely enjoyed my time with. You want to do the same thing, basically, and avoid the mistakes of using dating as just another distraction from your pain, which kind of ties in with lesson number 1, by the way. Another really interesting lesson I learned from that period is that the more choices you have, the less enticing each one is going to feel. Now, this phenomenon is called the paradox of choice, and it states that the more choices we're basically presented with, the more dissatisfied we will be with whichever one we choose, right? So when it comes to dating, the more mates you have available, the less you will put importance on every one of those mates. And this is really interesting because when I started to date, when I was just dating maybe 2 or 3 women, they meant a lot to me. But when I was dating 10 of them in a span of a week or 2, they meant nothing to me. And it was just to refer back to a previous lesson, it felt like I was just wasting my time. I'm not saying promiscuity is bad. All I'm saying is that when you're promiscuous because you're grieving and you don't have your emotional shit in order, then it becomes bad. Lesson number 5 is going to be a lesson on scarcity. We as humans, we have this really strong scarcity bias. We unconsciously assume that what is scarce, what is hard to get, is more valuable and desirable as what is abundant. For example, the more someone is available, the less you will want them and vice versa. For example, when I was picking up women, the more I pretended I wasn't interested, the more they wanted me. Same story applies when I was trying to get my ex back. The more I pretended not to like her, the more she texted me and shown interest. Again, this is great and all, but it leads people down a very unhealthy path, and you don't want to do it. You don't want to play on this scarcity bias, because it quickly can spiral out of control. It can show and indicate to your ex or whoever you're dating that you're playing games, they lose attraction as a result, and you feel like a piece of shit on the flip side as well, because you're basically trying to manipulate if you're leveraging scarcity in attraction or reattraction, right? So yeah, that's that. Lesson on insecurities. This is an interesting one. What I found out is that breakups actually not influence. Well, they do influence, but what was the word I was looking for, they heighten, they amplify one's insecurities. You probably felt this at some point. Like, for example, I was pretty insecure about my ex going out with other guy friends when I was still dating them. When I got into a breakup, when she dumped me, and I saw her going out with guy friends or something, I was 10 times, a bazillion times more insecure about it than when we were together. And I think this is valid across the board for all of your insecurities. Everything that I was insecure about in my relationship, I was a bazillion times more insecure about when I was out of that relationship when it came to my ex. And even when it came to just random dates. I never cared about a date calling me an asshole or something, right? But when I was hurting from my breakup, when I was devoid of that connection, it hurt way more than when I was single and didn't yet know my ex, and a date said something like, hey, I don't want to hang out with you, or basically I got rejected, right? So that's something to keep in mind, a very interesting phenomenon that happens post-breakup that you can try to become more aware of, and then when it comes to bite you in the ass, you kind of need to reel yourself in and not let it control you too much, or control you at all, because it can quickly make you do some pretty bad behaviors, like act uncontrollably, act in a desperate way. Maybe you start chasing your dates and your exes, maybe you start pursuing them, begging them to come back, begging them to give you a shot or another shot, stuff like that. You don't want to do that. The 7th lesson is a lesson on time. This is a lesson about breakup recovery, by the way, in general, and it goes like this. Time does heal a lot of wounds, but it does not heal all of them. Sure, over time will make you feel like yourself again. It will make you feel great again. It will help you emotionally heal and break through to recovery. It will help you emotionally heal from your breakup and break through to recovery. It helps you reach this peaceful state of acceptance, and that's great. You don't have to really do anything along that time, although there are ways you can speed up this process. Even if you just wait and do nothing, eventually, as time does its work, you will feel like yourself again. However, what I noticed is that while that is true, time does not heal trauma. It doesn't help you discover the reasons why you broke up. It doesn't help you discover why your relationships keep failing, why you keep attracting the same types of dysfunctional, shitty people into your life. It's only self-improvement that does all of that. It's through meditation, journaling, therapy, exercise, and updating your lifestyle, working on your insecurities, your attachment issues, becoming more vulnerable, self-aware. That's the stuff that will help you or resolve your trauma and help you have a great love life. While time itself, therefore, is really great as a tool to leverage breakup recovery, to speed up breakup recovery, and it's something that just happens automatically, which, great. It's not the end-all be-all. It's not enough by itself. That's the lesson. Lesson number 8 is all about love. What I learned from my years of dating unsuccessfully is that love is not enough to keep relationships afloat. You have to prioritize other healthier values on top of it. Values like trust, respect, honesty, empathy, communication, loyalty. Otherwise, you will constantly sacrifice your identity and self-respect in the name of love just to keep your relationship alive, and you will massively hurt yourself as a result. For example, your partner cheats on you, and you give them, in the name of love, another shot, even though you don't respect them, you don't trust them anymore, they don't respect you because you keep letting them cheat and get away with it, and it just becomes this self-fulfilling negative cycle, and your relationship becomes miserable as a result. Why? Because you prioritized love above respect and trust and honesty and loyalty, for example. So to make this really easy for you, although I have written articles about this topic already that you can check out on maxjancar.com, my blog, love does not equal compatibility. Love will not solve all of your relationship issues, if any. Love is not worth sacrificing for. So yeah, love is great, love is necessary, but love is not enough. Lesson number 9, a lesson on emotions. Technically 5 lessons, 5 things I've learned about emotions that might help you out in your recovery and in your life in general. The first one, there are no good and bad emotions. There are only good and bad responses to emotions. You can be angry, like I said, and go punch a dog, or you can be angry and go see a therapist. Then you can't control your emotions, so don't even try. Rather, channel them in productive directions instead, like work, socializing, dating, fitness, school, or your studies and stuff like that. Number 3, you'll never get good at managing all of your emotions, but you will become good at managing some of them. I, for example, am pretty good at managing my anxiety and insecurity. General insecurity in terms of like shyness. However, I'm really bad at managing pride. I never received much praise as a kid. I'm a little bit lacking in that department, and I still feel really weird when I get praise and just kind words these days, It feels, I don't know what to say. It feels awkward for me. I usually don't know how to respond to it at all, and I usually just nod and smile, and that's it. That's fine. I think that's something I'll just have to deal with for the rest of my life, and it's not a big deal. You'll have probably the same types of realizations down the line as well. Another lesson on emotions, they're not that deep. Listen to them, follow your intuition, sure, but don't take them too seriously. They're not like commandments from God or anything, which kind of brings me to the final thing I learned about emotions. Just because you feel like shit doesn't mean everything around you is shit. Your emotions are inherently feedback mechanisms, nothing else. Therefore, they're not signs that your life is going down the shitter. They're not the universe conspiring against you. They're not your past self trying to teach you a lesson. That's only the bullshit meaning that you've tied around your emotions. Those are only like fairy tales you've made up about them. They're not true. They're only meaning you constructed around them. The last lesson that I want to share is a lesson on chances. You have more than one chance at love. A simple hello could lead to a fun and fruitful date. Then that fun and fruitful date could lead to more fun and fruitful dates. And in a matter of weeks or months, you might wound up in a really great relationship that can last perhaps a lifetime. And if it doesn't, that's fine. You always have the ability to just say hello, to greet another cute guy or gal and start the process or try to start the process again. This time, who knows, maybe something lasting does pop out the other side. Maybe it doesn't and you find someone else. You have more than one chance at love. Your ex is not your soulmate. You're not destined to be together. That's all bullshit. You can definitely find someone else. So embrace the uncertainty that comes with life and love, I guess, because it's the only certainty. That was it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed the listen, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So take care and hang in there.